is Nadine with DIY Sweets. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Black Forest cake. The first thing we need to do is we need to get our pans ready. I am using 3 8-inch cakes. To prepare my pan, all I do is I take a spray that has flour already in it, and I spray my pan down, making sure especially that I get the sides. The bottom is not as important as the sides because I'm going to be putting this parchment paper in the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this with all 3 pans. Now that I have my pans ready, I'm ready to start making the cake. The Black Forest cake is a sponge cake. The one thing we do to add some flavor to this cake is we pour a simple syrup with some flavoring in it. Today I'm going to be pouring a rum flavored simple syrup onto each layer of cake. I'm going to be flavoring the rum flavor with the rum extract, not with actual rum. I'm doing this because in our house we actually don't drink alcohol, and since this is poured onto it after it's baked, I don't want the alcohol content. You could put things besides rum in. You could put brandy in, you could put a chocolate liqueur in to give it a richer chocolate flavor. It's up to you what you want to put in, but for me today I'm going to be putting in a rum flavored simple syrup on the cake. Let's get started showing how we make the cake. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sift all the dry ingredients. To sift my dry ingredients, what I do is I just put it all in a sieve. So there's my flour and my cocoa and my salt. Some people would just take it up and hit it like that, and you can do that. But I find it's actually faster if I just take a spoon and I move it around like this. It makes it go through a lot faster. Either way works. You do it the way that works best for you. This is now ready for when I add it to the cake. I'm going to put that aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix the eggs. I have my stand mixer here, and I'm just going to dump the eggs into the mixer. I'm going to raise up the bowl, and then I'm going to just turn this on to mix the eggs up. You can see the eggs are just slightly mixed right now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my sugar and my vanilla. I'm now going to beat this on high for 8 minutes because I want to get this nice, light, and fluffy. We'll be back in 8 minutes when this is done mixing. I am noticing some splash out, so I'm putting this guard on to help prevent the splashing out. All right, this has now been beating for 8 minutes. Look how light and creamy and fluffy that is. What I want to do now is I want to scrape the sides down. And now I'm ready to add the dry ingredients. I want to add this slowly while the mixer's going. And I don't want it going really high right now because I want to make sure that this doesn't have a lot of fly out. So I'm just going to slowly put that in. Now I'm just going to turn this up a teeny bit higher so that I can get it all totally mixed in. We have it all mixed now. We're going to just take this pan off. Oops. As I take the beater off, I noticed there was a little bit of that dry ingredient still in the beater, so I'm just going to scrape it down. Scrape off my beater, and then bring this over to the cakes. As you remember, there was a little bit of dry powder still in, so I'm just going to do a real quick whip in like this to make sure I have it all. This cake is going to be very light and airy. And I need to divide what's in here into 3 pans. So I'm just going to put a little bit to begin with, just enough to cover the bottom in each pan. Because we don't need more than about 1 inch by the time it's baked. Now one thing you could do is you could put all of this in one pan, and then you could pour it and level it later. But I'm thinking I'm going to be able to cut down on my cooking time if I divide it into 3 pans. Instead of taking the 40 minutes that the recipe calls for, I'm thinking I can get it cooked in 20 or 30 minutes. So I have my 3 pans of cake batter. And as I'm looking, I think this one's a little bit fuller and this one's a little bit emptier. So I'm just going to take a little bit and try to make it more equal amounts. I'm now going to put these in the oven, and the recipe says to cook it for 40 minutes. But since I've divided it into the 3 pans, I'm going to start checking it about every 20 minutes. You'll notice I have the cakes all on the one shelf, and I have them spaced evenly. So we're going to let these cook now for 20 minutes and then check it and see how it's doing. The timer just went off on the oven after 20 minutes. We're going to go check and see if it's done. All we do to check if it's done, you can see it's moved away from the edge, and when I poke the toothpick in on all 3 of them, it comes out clean. So we're ready to pull it out. We're going to pull our cakes out and just let them cool for about 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, we'll be ready to dump them out of the pan and let them cool till they are completely cool. We're ready now to take the cake out of the pans. All we do is I just run a knife around here to make sure nothing is sticking on the edges. And then I dump the cake onto the cooling rack. Now, next thing I do is I just peel off the parchment paper, and then the cake is ready. So I do the same thing with all 3 cakes. And these cakes are now ready to be stacked with the cherries in between. Now that the cakes are ready, we're going to make the simple syrup that we want to pour onto the cakes.